Yo, it's your boy eBay Fight Predictions in the building, and I'll be breaking down the UFC 264 main event: Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 3, the trilogy. Great fight. I can't be too mad at it. I thought Dustin probably should have fought for the belt, but it is what it is, man. We got the fight right here. Really, really big fight. I know a lot of people are gonna watch it, so it's gonna be dope to have a really good, fun fight week. And a lot of media and stuff like that. And and they're gonna have a full arena in Vegas, so that's gonna be dope, man. A lot of things are gonna go into this trilogy. I've I've predicted some trilogies, and and I predicted it kind of wrong sometimes. So I'm gonna try to learn from those mistakes, right? And try to predict these right. But I mean, at the end of the day, for this fight, we only really got to talk about, the last two of the trilogy. Obviously, we're going to talk about the stats and where these guys are ranked. But in terms of their, previous fights, man, you can go check out my original breakdown. I'll link that in the description box, or, if you want to go check that out, or I did a film study on it. It's on my Twitter. You'd have to probably scroll down. But if you want to see stuff like that, then go ahead. But I'm really not going to talk about their other fights. It's really just these two guys going at it. So that's what I'm really going to focus on, and what happened in, the first fight and in the second fight, and where does that, leave us in the third fight. But yeah, let's talk about the stats, man. In terms of where they're ranked, if we go in the UFC rankings, UFC lightweight rankings, let me search it up. Their website, obviously TSN is probably a better website, I've noticed, for the actual rankings. And they're pretty fast with it. They what's it called? They get those updates with the quickness. But yeah, man, Dustin Poirier is the number 1 lightweight. Conor is the number 5 lightweight in the world. So really cool stuff there. Two top guys going at it. But in terms of record, Dustin comes with a record of 27-6. Is fighting out of Florida, age 32, a height of 5'9" and a reach of 73. And Conor is 22-5. He's fighting out of Ireland, age 32, a height of 5'9", and a reach of 74. Hey, it is what it is. This is gonna be a good fight. This is gonna be a really, really good fight for the fans and for everybody, honestly. Really big fight for both guys, man. I mean, honestly, like, I haven't watched any of the pre-fight hype or any countdowns leading up to this. This is actually kind of really early. I'm gonna make this video, but I've been really debating on who I'm gonna go with in this video, and it's really been hard for me to really pick. But it's just, I don't know, man. It's so hard with this one, but I mean, really, really big stakes for everybody. You got Dustin Poirier right now. I mean, I just found out some info about the second fight, is that Dustin didn't make crazy money, right? So, obviously Dustin went out there, and they said, if you get this done, I'll link the video where I'm getting this information from, but basically from what I seen in that video, they were like, in contract negotiations, you get this done, you get a third fight, and that's when you get the real money. And you could see in that second fight, man, he was gonna go and die, or he was gonna win. So this is a really, really big fight for him. This is where he makes the real money. This is where things go his way. He didn't care about fighting for the belt. He cared about, setting up his kids for life, right? So this is a really big opportunity. When you have big money on the line, you get some of the best performances, or sometimes you get some of the worst performances. But I think Dustin is a hardworking guy. I think he, his background, where he's come from, everything he's been through, I think he's gonna put in the work, and I think we're gonna see the best version of him. And I mean, you beat Conor in a third time. He's in the greatest redemption story I've ever seen. This is even better than what, in my humble opinion, DC did. Becoming double champ after John Jones beat him. If he does this, if Dustin beats Conor and then ends up becoming champion, I mean, this is a story. This is even better than Dominic Cruz's story of getting the title back after he beat the Snake, right? This is a story that you could really tell people and be like, man, like Dustin Poirier, like if you work hard, You can be like him, man. Like, he did it. Why can't you? This is something that, obviously he's not thinking about it, but in the back of his head, it probably will go through his mind, is that this is an all-time great story. And when you have an all-time great story like this in sports, you're put in a different kind of echelon. And this is a big, big fight for Dustin. And this is something that should motivate him. He shouldn't be non-motivated because he beat Conor before. This should give him more motivation to just end it. But and that's the thing. Just to not go 2-1 with this guy. Don't let this guy get the lead. You go 2-1. You take the lead. Don't let this guy come back. End it. End him and end it, and just leave him, a dead body. And you just keep walking forward, and you bypass him basically. But yeah, the mentalities for a rematch and a trilogy are some of the most mind-boggling things to me, bro. I used to, before 2021, I had a really, really strong kind of rule. I've dealt with this and I've seen it firsthand. You do not pick the guy that lost the first one in the rematch. It's just something I've learned. There are some circumstances, right? You look at Henry Cejudo versus DJ, right? With Cejudo basically 4-1 that dude. I know I'm gonna piss some people off by saying that, but that's how I scored it when I first watched it. Because I got eyes. You got Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos, right? Cain lost the first one, he wins the second one. Stipe Miocic versus DC won the rematch. Who else? Oh yeah, Bisping, Rockhold, right? So you got them scenarios, but man, recently at the time, you had Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw, Kevin Lee, Ali Quinta, and it was just so weird to me when at the time when I was watching MMA, it was just happening. Before I made this channel, obviously, just happening so often. Like, the guy would just, the guy that won the first one would just win the second one, and it just felt like, that's the way you gotta go almost, And this year in particular, I mean, it's been the year of revenge. You look at Francis Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic, Dustin versus Conor. There's been a lot of just guys, Uriah Hall, Weidman, guys just winning the rematch, and I'm like, what the fuck? Obviously, we had Beneil Dariush versus Diego Ferreira. He won the rematch. Adesanya versus Marvin. He won the rematch. So we've had situations like that. Even I don't know. Was it this? No, it wasn't in 2021. But it was really close to the end of the year. Jan Blachowicz versus Corey Anderson. That's another one. So, it's just one of those things. It's like, fuck. This year is just going to be so, so weird. But, it is what it is. But, let's talk about Conor and what he has to, what this fight means to him, man. Honestly, but let's throw away all the trilogy rules or all the trilogy mentalities or rematch mentalities. This is literally his career on the line right now. In terms of, you look at popularity, MMA standards, the standards of fans. Obviously, as a true fighter will fight no matter what. It doesn't matter if you lose. They'll keep fighting. A true fighter loves to fight, right? That's something you have to respect about some of these guys that go on these losing streaks but continue to fight because that's what they love to do. It's their job, right? But for Conor, man, he almost has a boxing standard. You look at boxing and you lose 2 fights and that's your career, and you're kind of just written off. And he's almost being, I guess, treated at that standard, and it's like people are like, oh, he's gonna be done. And the way he's treated and the way he's judged, I mean, yeah, he's talked so much mess, but it's like any other fighter loses a few. I've never heard this thing that they're gonna retire. But the thing is, at the end of the day, he has the money. So I think that's where this kind of almost this boxing talk is coming from towards Conor. Nothing wrong with it, but I'm just like, you don't really see that a lot in in MMA. Even T Wood, T Wood lost his last 2, right? Fights Colby Covington, and no one told him you gotta retire. And people are like, oh, let's watch this fight, right? I think after the Colby and the Vicente, but that's 4 losses in a row, It's just a different thing. But for Conor, man, it's just he's on a different standard, because it's like if he loses this, it's honestly people are going to question everything he's ever done in his career. Was he just a lucky guy that caught everyone on the chin, you know? And this is going to mean so much to him if he loses to a guy that he said it himself, you know, in the first fight, a nobody, a bum, a hillbilly. And this hillbilly came back and took it, you know? And that's something that eats at people, you know, because you look at someone lower than you, and you're always going to look at them like that way. You beat them, right? And you're like, oh, this guy's a scrub, right? This guy comes back, and I think Conor, the reason why Conor was so nice to Dustin in the lead up to the second fight is because he didn't respect him. You know, the talk about the charity and the money, I think it was more of a diss that he was going to, you know, I beat you, and then I'm going to donate to your charity. I'm going to throw you money like a hoe. Like, you know how some guy, like, it's something you'll see. Like, a dude will get a hoe, or, you know, from the corner, right? You know, have his way with her, throw some money, and kick her out. And that's how he said, I'm going to treat you, basically. That's what I got from it, right? From that kind of, I know, I don't know why I brought that up. The analogy probably is going to go over some of y'all heads, but I think that's, you know, that's the kind of diss he was trying to send to Dustin. And, you know, for you to lose like that, and in a fight he wasn't doing bad in, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt him, and it's gonna, you know, he's gonna want this. You know, he's gonna really want this, and I know he's gonna train hard. Like, this is a trilogy where, like, this can go either way, because you look at the second fight, you look at the first fight. Both guys knocked each other out. Both guys are hungry. Both guys are in the most competitive division in the company, the lightweight division, and it's going to be really real serious. So that's really what it comes down to, is who really wants it more. And but we can talk about the first fight, right? The first fight, I mean, Dustin did a lot of similar things in the second fight that he did in the first fight. He tacked the legs. Now, obviously, he didn't tack the calf. He was just throwing more regular leg kicks near the knee area, right? He was throwing that a lot. Conor, he had a lot more bouncy footwork. He had a wider stance. He didn't have more of a boxing stance. He had a Wonder Boy-esque kind of stance, you know, more karate, you know, stuff like that. You know, he was throwing a lot more front kicks. He was throwing a lot more kicks in general. He was just throwing a lot of stuff at Dustin, and he was very bouncy. You know, Dustin was more stationary. He was more stiff. He was more, you know, almost like a Thai boxer in there. And you know, he was getting tagged, and he didn't know how to deal with it, and he became somewhat, you know, predictable. He threw naked leg kicks, and that's what really hurt Dustin, and he was throwing a lot of naked leg kicks. And then when he got caught with that, you know, that jab rear hook, it was over. You know, it was wraps. And, you know, Dustin in this fight wasn't that different. You know, obviously, maybe the wrestling, right? But in the stand-up, he wasn't that different from the second fight. The only difference is, what I noticed personally, was the durability, right? You have to really ask yourself real stuff, man. The weight cutting system, you know, in the UFC, and did this weight cut affect Dustin? Obviously, Dustin has been finished at lightweight before, but I mean, did it affect him? You know, he got chinned. I remember, people don't remember, he got chinned by Korean Zombie. I remember, before he got submitted. A lot of people forget that. I think he just wasn't as durable as he was, or as he is right now at 155 than at 145. And, you know, that's what we saw in the second fight. And in the second fight, I mean, it was insanity, bro. Like, I was in utter shock. You know, I picked Conor. I just felt like Dustin didn't show me enough good stuff against Dan Hooker to make me think he could beat Conor, right? I saw what he did in there. He got lit up, you know, in the first 2 rounds, right? Especially in the second. He got taken down a whole bunch. He couldn't take Dan down. His wrestling didn't look good. All he had was his toughness and his grit, and he just looked like a punching bag. He looked like an everlast punching bag in there, right? And he kind of played to that factor in the second fight. In the first round especially, I mean, Conor was landing jabs, was lighting him up. The 1-2-1, he would land a jab, throw the cross, and then throw another jab, right? He was landing a lot of stuff like that, and he had a lot of success with it. Obviously, you know, Dustin went for that takedown, which was something I think very influential in the momentum switch of the fight, because he switched it up. You know, he showed him that we're not just gonna box, even though Dustin has good boxing, right? And some people think he's, is the best boxer at 155 in the UFC, and just in terms of his hands, right? But Conor kind of just showed he was a little bit superior on the feet with the hands, right? But what Dustin showed in there is that he was the grittier fighter. He was more durable. The weight cut didn't affect him like it did the first time, and also he didn't give up in the boxing. A lot of guys you'll see, they get I wouldn't say depressed, but they lose faith, right? Eddie Alvarez, when he fought Conor, I mean, you could just see it, man. After the first few knockdowns, it was almost like he was staring at the mirror and just waiting to get knocked down. I mean, Dustin got hit with shots and he didn't give up, and he just kept, he kept going. He was like, okay, all right, I'll take this, but I'm going to give it right back. And he landed some really good hooks, man. There was a moment where he landed almost like a counter lead hook, and then he just goes like pointing at him, haha, I got you. And but honestly, the story of this fight, besides the boxing, was the calf kicks. I mean, this was something that was really influential. Even though he kind of did it similarly in the first fight, this was a lot different. He didn't go for leg kicks. These were calf kicks. And obviously the game plan was the same when you really look at it in the first fight. It was just that he got caught, in the first fight. And I think Mike Brown was still in his corner. I think so, yeah. I think Mike Brown was in his corner for that fight. And I think they lost to Conor. And that's something that they got to take into question. And something that Conor's coaches also has to take into question is, did they dodge a bullet that first time? And, are they really going to have to work hard in this, in this trilogy? And basically in the rematch, the calf kicks started adding up, and we saw who wanted it more. I've seen Dustin's legs go away, and Dustin never quit. Against Justin Gaethje, his legs got torn up. He never quit in there. This happens to Conor. He basically gave up. He kind of was like, he didn't want to be there anymore. You could just see it. He didn't want to take it. It's almost, you see it in boxing a lot. When somebody, lifts their hands up, almost they put their guard up. It's almost a position where like they want to rest. They want to just something to do. And he started getting hurt. He started getting lit up. And right when, Conor got his back against the cage and Dustin lit him up. Interruption, y'all. You already know, man. This computer be tripping. But yeah, like I said, right when Conor kind of, put his back against the cage, I mean, it was over. He put his hands up, and Dustin, he broke him. It's the truth. I'm sorry. He quit. He got caught with a really good hook near the end, and then the ground and pound, he went out for a little bit. I don't think he went out for a long time. I think he went out maybe for 5 seconds. He went out for 5 seconds. There's a clip I'll try to find of the ground and pound that Dustin, he gave him some 2 pieces. So this is a big fight. It's a big fight. There's nothing I can really say. I've talked about the first 2 fights, right, and what happened. Obviously, can Conor win this? Yeah, he has a chance. He didn't do bad. It's not like he did bad, but I've learned from my mistakes. Obviously I look at the DC trilogy, and I kind of compare this to the DC, kind of thing, and it's very similar. You look at DC, did really great in the rematch. He did phenomenal in the rematch. I know eye pokes and stuff like that, but we're not here to talk about that, punks, okay? You guys always like talking about that damn shit. And obviously DC knocked him out in the first fight. And then in the third fight, we saw really who was the more complete fighter. Stipe Miocic ended up being the more complete fighter. I think that's what we're going to see in this third fight. As much as I think Conor is the better fighter in the first round, I think he's really good in the first round, and even in the second. But when it's the third and the fourth and the fifth, Dustin will show that he is the more complete fighter. And maybe Dustin won't be able to use the calf kicks like he did, but he'll wrestle. I know he can wrestle for a long. Go watch the Anthony. He put a pace on Pettis, so I know he'll be able to do that. It's hard for me not to go with Dustin. It's just he won the last one. He's shown in his career that he's not a quitter, and I think if both guys are bloody, if both guys are, hurt, if both guys are, really, damaged, right? And you got to really pick a guy to dig deep in them trenches. It's Dustin Poirier. You can't really can't go against him right here. And as much as Conor needs this win, I think he had a great run at 145. I think he accomplished a lot of good things in the sport, but I think this is where it ends, you know. I'm not going to say it's the end of his career, but I think, you know, I think this is Dustin's time, and Conor can win it. He really can. But I just don't see it. After that last fight, and after just, you know, I was a big DC fan. I picked DC. I mean, I picked him in all 3 of the fights, right? I learned my lesson there. Can't really make the same mistake twice. Obviously, Conor can win this, but I got to go Dustin Poirier by decision. I'm going to say Dustin by decision. I think he gets it done by decision. I don't know if he can finish Conor again, but I think Dustin will be the superior fighter throughout the, you know, 5 rounds, or I think he wins 3. I think he'll lose maybe the first 2 or the first, you know, maybe he might do a 4-1, but I got Dustin Poirier taking this. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Do not forget to follow me on my Instagram and Twitter. All those links will be down below in the description box. Like, comment, subscribe, go click the notification button. Love y'all, and goodbye.
The fight didn't even get to blossom, you know. But that's fighting. Anything can happen under those lights. I want, if you're talking about game plan, what I want is for us to both be dripping blood and hurting and suffering early in the fight. Then we can find out who's the real fighter. You know, that's what I want. I want to be bleeding with a minute off the first round clock. I want us both to be bleeding and really have to dig down and see who's the better fighter. See who really wants to be in there. You know, because I don't have a safety net. This is, I want to be in there.
Yeah.
And I know that. And I'd like to find out if he does.
Damn. Fuck.
And I don't, that's uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm not looking forward to getting busted open, but if we can get the fight to that point to where both of us are tired and bleeding, then we can see who has more grit and who has more want. And I think I win that fight 10 out of 10 times.
Dang, bro. Damn.